Welcome to Social Media Trainwrecks, the Friday show where we roll up on the week's biggest brand disaster and pick through the wreckage. I'm Giovanni Gallucci, and this week I've got Alexis Parker riding shotgun. We find the dumb decision, the post that poured gas on the fire, and the one move that would have saved them. Alexis, what are we rubbernecking at?
Gio, this one's got a 130-year-old handbag pattern and a bubble tea cup. And somehow that's a 5-alarm fire. We're doing Louis Vuitton. They won a lawsuit and lost a country.
Now that's a Friday. A luxury house wins in court and gets dragged in the street for it. Pull us up to the crash site because I've got a feeling the win is the wreck.
So here's the wreck. June 29th, a court in Jiangsu province in China rules that a local tea chain called Molly Tea infringed 7 of Louis Vuitton's trademarks, including that famous flower monogram.
7 trademarks. And who's Molly Tea for folks who've never seen the cup?
Shenzhen-based. Bubble tea, traditional Chinese flavors, real, clean, minimalist branding built to look good on somebody's feed. Young crowd loves it.
So a beloved little local darling. And the court sides with the French giant. What's the damage number?
About 10 million yuan. Call it $1.5 million US, once you fold in the legal fees.
$1.5 million out of a tea company, handed to a brand that sells a purse for more than a used car. And that right there's the wreck, Alexis. And here's what makes it a good one. Louis Vuitton didn't do anything illegal.
Right, they won. So where's the crime?
The crime isn't legal, it's optics. They're a foreign luxury house in the single most important growth market on the planet for luxury, and they chose to make headlines squeezing a homegrown underdog over a flower. That's not a lawsuit. That's a billboard that says, we'll come after your small businesses.
But it's their trademark. Doesn't the flower belong to them?
Legally, in that courtroom, yes. And here's the exact spot where they drove off the road. That 4-petal flower shows up in Chinese design going back more than 1,000 years. Tang Dynasty textiles, tile work, window grills. So the second LV says that pattern is ours, and you owe us. A whole country hears you stole our heritage, and now you're charging us rent on it.
Oof, and people ran with that.
They floored it. Netizens started posting side-by-sides, LV's monogram next to 1,000-year-old Chinese motifs. A hashtag basically saying, LV can't sue over Chinese patterns, pulled tens of millions of views on Weibo. And the old nickname came roaring back, folks calling the bags toilet bags, because that same flower's on the tile in old public restrooms over there.
So the luxury brand's signature look got turned into a bathroom joke.
For free, by the very market they were trying to look powerful in front of. That's the bonehead move, and it's the whole lesson. Every legal action a brand takes is also a piece of content. You aren't just filing a claim, you're publishing a story about who you are.
So the mistake wasn't suing. It was suing loud.
It was suing loud against a sympathetic little guy in a place where you're already seen as an outsider, with a damages number big enough to make the news. Somebody in that building was optimizing for the trademark, and nobody was reading the room.
Why do luxury brands keep stepping on this same rake?
Because they're built to defend the logo like it's the crown jewels, and for them, it kind of is. The whole business runs on that monogram meaning exclusive. So the reflex is protect it, everywhere, all the time, no exceptions. That reflex is great in a boardroom and a loaded gun on social. Protecting the mark and protecting the brand feel like the same thing right up until the day they point in opposite directions.
And this was one of those days.
This was a clinic in one of those days.
And it wasn't a one-off either, was it?
That's the part that makes it worse. Earlier this year, they'd already gone after a little restaurant in Nanjing over floral decor. So there's a pattern here. A big house methodically enforcing against small Chinese businesses. Do that once, it's a lawsuit. Do it in a run, it's a personality.
A personality nobody wants to follow.
Exactly. And on social, personality is the whole ballgame.
Okay, so the internet's on fire. Millions of views. The toilet bag jokes, people questioning the judges. What does Louis Vuitton actually do about it?
Near as anybody can tell, nothing. They let the wind speak, and they went quiet.
Is quiet ever the right call? You've told me before that sometimes silence is the move.
It is, sometimes. When you're wrong, when you need to let a news cycle burn down, when anything you say adds oxygen. But this wasn't that. This was a live accusation. You're stealing our culture, aimed straight at the emotional core of your biggest market. Staying mute there doesn't read as calm, it reads as arrogance, like you're too grand to answer the little people.
So, how do you grade the response?
I give it a D. And the D isn't for losing the case, they won the case. The D is for winning the courtroom and then abandoning the room where the actual brand lives, which is the feed. They had a legal victory and a reputation emergency at the same time, and they only staffed one of them.
What would a passing grade even sound like here? What do they say?
You go human and you go local, fast. Something like, we've deep respect for Chinese art and heritage. This case was narrowly about one specific logo that was confusing shoppers. It was never a claim on a shared cultural pattern that belongs to everyone. You separate the legal thing from the cultural thing out loud before your critics fuse them together for you.
Because if you don't draw that line,
The crowd draws it for you, and they draw it in the least flattering place. That's the rule for any brand in a pile-on. If there's a reasonable version of your story, you've about a day to tell it yourself. Leave the microphone on the ground, and somebody angrier picks it up.
now let's back up to prevention. Could they have won this without the bonfire?
Easily, and this is the maddening part, same as almost every wreck we cover. The save was cheap. Option 1, you settle it quietly. A cease and desist, a private agreement, the little T chain tweaks its logo. Nobody outside a law office ever hears about it.
And the flower still gets protected.
The trademark's just as protected. You got everything you wanted and zero headlines. Option 2, if you truly need a ruling, you don't go chasing a giant, newsworthy damages number out of a small local brand. Because the size of that number is what turned a boring trademark story into a David and Goliath story.
The number was the headline.
The number's always the headline. We said the same thing a few weeks back about a sports league and a tiny fine. Whether the figure's too small or too big, the second it looks out of proportion to normal people, the figure becomes the story, and your reasoning disappears.
So what's the actual missing person in that building? Who wasn't in the room?
Communications and brand weren't sitting at the table when legal decided to make this public. That's the whole failure in one sentence. Legal's job is to win the case. Nobody in that meeting had the job of asking, sure, but how does this look to 800 million people who love this little tea brand?
And nobody wants to be the one slowing legal down.
Right, and that's the cultural fix, not just a process fix. Comms has to have standing to tap legal on the shoulder and say, you'll win this, and it'll cost us more than we're collecting. If that voice doesn't exist, or exists but nobody listens to it, you'll run this exact play again next quarter with a different little brand.
All right, stormproofing. The part people should screenshot. A brand's listening right now thinking, I'll never sue a bubble tea shop. This isn't my problem. Why is it their problem?
Because the trap isn't luxury, and it isn't China. The trap is winning the case and losing the room, and any brand can walk into it. You send a nasty legal letter to a small creator who parodied you. You DMCA a fan account. You go scorched earth on a tiny competitor. Every one of those is legal, and every one of those can become the exact same wreck the second a screenshot goes up.
So what's the system? What do you actually build?
One rule, and you write it down. Any legal or enforcement action that touches an outside party gets a reputation read before it goes out the door. Same as you'd read a Super Bowl ad before you air it. Somebody whose only job is to ask, if this letter lands on social media tomorrow, are we the hero or the bully?
And if the answer is bully,
Then you don't stop protecting your rights, you change the delivery. Quiet instead of loud. Private instead of public. A settlement instead of a headline number. You can be completely right and still choose the version that doesn't hand your critics a weapon.
what about the piece where the pattern's older than the brand? The cultural thing. How's a company supposed to see that coming?
You keep somebody in the building who actually knows the market you're operating in. A luxury house in China should have had a person in that room saying, folks, that flower has 1,000 years of local meaning. If we claim it as ours, we're going to look like we're colonizing a heritage. That's not woke. That's just knowing the neighborhood you're doing business in.
Know the neighborhood.
Know the neighborhood. Your biggest asset as a brand isn't the trademark, It's whether the people in your growth market feel like you respect them. Louis Vuitton spent a courtroom win buying a story that says they don't. That's a bad trade, and no legal victory pays it back.
And the receipts don't disappear when the case is over.
They never do. Molly T can appeal, the ruling can shift, and none of that unrings the bell. The side-by-side images and the toilet bag jokes are already living rent-free in the feed. That's the thing brands forget. The lawsuit ends. The content the lawsuit created is forever.
So the one-liner a listener leaves with.
Before you win the fight, ask what winning it makes you look like. If the trophy comes with a story that says you're the villain, you didn't win. You just paid to be the bad guy in your most important market.
Win the case, lose the room.
Win the case, lose the room. Frame that one and hang it over the legal department's door.
That's our rec for the week. Louis Vuitton, a flower, a teacup, and a courtroom victory that cost more than it collected.
The lesson travels no matter what you sell. Every lawsuit, every takedown, every cease and desist is a post now, whether you meant it to be or not. Read it like one before you hit send. I'm Giovanni Gallucci. This has been Social Media Trainwrecks. We'll see you next Friday at the next crash site.